6 days officially in the books. No Geno Smith contract extension announcement. But the Silver and Black do continue to make a little small roster adjustments. And we'll tell you about that and a lot more on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for March 20th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome here, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you if you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. You know we appreciate both. The show continues to grow each and every day. That's because of your support and the job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. Again, on the Locked On Raiders podcast YouTube page. Fantastic job. You can check him out on Twitter. You can shout him out. He's at Ari Produces. You want to hit me up, you can, at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, 707-654-4693. A lot of really good feedback we got coming up at segment number 3. We're going to try to get to as much as possible. Your calls, your texts, that's how we'll close out the show today from hearing from you. 707-654-4693. Segment number 2, there's a lot of good positivity, a lot of positive momentum, I feel like, for the Raiders with this new staff led by John Spytek, Pete Carroll. A lot of people from the national scene and others think that the Raiders are really headed in the right direction. I do as well. I do have one concern as I've seen, well, so far things roll this new league year. I'll tell you about that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day. We'll go ahead and jump right into it. Again, no Geno Smith contract extension, but there are some minor news and notes to get to. We'll do that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that's Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So off top, the Raiders did in fact make it official with running back Raheem Mostert, the 10-year vet, comes over from the Miami Dolphins as a free agent on a 1-year deal. And it's funny, we thought that we were going to get the email from Raiders PR around 10:30 on Wednesday morning. 10:30 came by, nothing. Then around 11, we got the text message, hey, it's going to probably be around 12:30. Okay, cool. 12:30 went by, nothing. All of a sudden, different people that cover the Raiders locally, we start sending texts to each other like, wait, hold on. Did I miss it? Did I miss the email? What happened? Did I miss because it was a Zoom press conference with Raheem Mostert. Did I miss that? No, I haven't heard anything yet either. So immediately, I'm not going to lie, I started thinking, oh boy, maybe he didn't pass his physical, right? Maybe this is another Jimmy G type situation when it wasn't. In fact, it happened around 2 o'clock, about 2:15, as a matter of fact, because I was already on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920, when he actually met with the media by way of Zoom. But again, 10-year vet, 2023, he was named to his first Pro Bowl after finishing with 209 carries, over 1,000 yards, and 18 touchdowns to go along with 25 catches, 175 yards, and 3 more touchdowns. His 18 rushing touchdowns led the NFL that season, and his 21 total touchdowns were tied for the most in the league. He is a touchdown machine. 2024, not so much. He was really banged up, didn't have a lot that he can contribute, so he's looking to have a bounce-back season in 2025. So I wasn't on the Zoom call because, again, I was on my radio show, but, of course, I went back and listened to it all after the show, and there was a couple sound bites to me that really stood out, so I wanted to go ahead and run them by you real quick. And the first one was just asking him about the type of role he expects. He knows Chip Kelly really well. Chip Kelly signed him in Philadelphia as an undrafted free agent. So what's the role that Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and the company have for Raheem Mostert moving forward?
First things first, I would like to say that, I'm here to just get to work. My role is going to be whatever I'm able to create. Obviously, there's opportunity there, but I'm going to come into this building and I'm just ready to get active and get to work.
Sounds like a great Pete Carroll guy, right? Whatever role he earns. And that's all you could really expect, right? I mean, again, that's what Pete Carroll wants. And that's what, if you look at all the free agents that they brought in, and it hasn't been a whole lot, and obviously it hasn't been any big-time free agents, but the guys that they've brought in, they all have the same theme. They got to get there, they got to work hard, and they've got to compete. Again, that's the C word that Raider Nation is going to get so tired of hearing. So the next soundbite is about the quarterback, Geno Smith, who we're all still waiting on this contract extension announcement. It can come at any time. Yes, 6 days have gone by since they made the announcement. They officially made the trade for Geno. Still nothing, but Geno's still putting in work. There's nothing to worry about because, as Raheem Mostert lets you know, Geno Smith actually reached out to him when he found out that he was headed to the Silver and Black. Check it out.
Yeah, first and foremost, man, I would have to say Geno's a top tier pro. When he heard the news that I was getting signed, to the Raiders, he immediately, I mean, I was on the phone call with Chip and the running backs coach, and I get a text from a strange number, and it's just saying, "Hey, this is Geno. No, I'm super excited to have you, man. We're super excited to have you. And let's get wins. Let's get ready to work." That just tells you the type of player that he is and wants to be, right? That right there in itself, for a guy that can reach out to so many other people. He could be a busy guy. To reach out to me the way he did in that moment. I haven't even officially signed. Makes you reassuring that he's definitely on track to be something great, and also this team.
Pretty cool, right? Geno Smith is obviously getting ready to be a Raider quarterback. Geno Smith is worried about a contract extension. I'm not saying worried about it, but obviously that's something that he's going to be a part of, is getting that contract extension. I'm sure that the people behind the scenes are really feverishly working to make that happen. And instead of him just selfishly saying, well, I haven't got my contract yet, I'm not going to, do any kind of reaching out. I'm not going to, talk to my new teammates. I'm not going to do this, that, and the third. To find out that, he reached out to Raheem Mostert as soon as he found out that he was going to be a part of the Raiders organization. I thought it was really cool, and just kind of tells you the guy that Geno Smith is. And the final soundbite that I have for you, just from Raheem Mostert's, his Zoom call that he had with the media on Wednesday, is about his motivation. I talked about it earlier. 2024 was really banged up. So he was asked about getting back to that 2023 Raheem Mostert. How motivated is he to prove that he's more that guy as opposed to the guy who was injury riddled in 2024?
I look at it like this: like I'm always gonna have a chip on my shoulder no matter where I go, no matter what I'm doing. And last year's performance wasn't up to my standard, wasn't up to my par. And so just getting back into that form, I'm already feeling really good. Coming in this offseason. And I'm just super excited to showcase my work ethic and everything that I've done and worked up to thus far. I could show you better than I could tell you. That's a saying that I truly live by. I can show you better than I could tell you.
So again, just sounds like a guy that is perfect for what Pete Carroll wants and the kind of culture that Pete Carroll is going to create. The press conference probably lasted about 9 or 10 minutes, something like that. But again, just kind of what you expect from a guy who's, signing a 1-year deal. It's not going to be anything that we're going to do a backflip about, but just kind of understand what you're getting in the guy who, once again, 10-year vet, has had plenty of, carries under his belt. He knows he's going to have to come into the organization and compete. He's not being promised anything, which is exactly what Pete Carroll wants to do. Also, found out that the Raiders signed Christian Ellis to an offer sheet. That's the linebacker that I talked about the other day that visited the Raiders. He's a restricted free agent. So Tom Pelissero put out the tweet on Wednesday. The Raiders have signed Patriots restricted free agent linebacker Christian Ellis to an offer sheet per the wire. New England has until Monday to match. Remember, Christian Ellis played in 2024 with the Patriots, 16 games, had 80 tackles, 1.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, interception, 5 passes defense. So, again, the Patriots could say, okay, hey, they want to sign you to a deal. They gave him as a restriction. It's about a $3.5 million deal. At least that was the tender that the Patriots gave him. I don't know what the offer is that the Raiders gave him, but they have till Monday afternoon to decide if they're going to keep him. And I saw a lot of people say, oh, I think New England's probably going to match it, but they just recently signed a linebacker that comes from Tennessee that's very familiar with Vrabel. So maybe they don't. Maybe they say, hey, you know what? We got our guy. He's a Vrabel guy. We're very familiar with him. Now we don't need to have Ellis come back. So we'll see what happens, but just kind of be on the lookout for that. Potential another linebacker coming to the silver and black, as the Raiders did see what they liked in Christian Ellis and decided to sign him to an offer sheet. We'll see if it comes through, and we'll find that out Monday afternoon. My final piece of news and notes here in segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast has to do with Christian Wilkins, the big defensive tackle. He was the big free agent get for the Raiders just a season ago. And I have to admit, I didn't notice this. This was not something that Q discovered. This is actually something that Andy Turner, he's on Twitter at aturn07. He actually is the one who discovered this and kind of alerted me to it. He saw something about Christian Wilkins' contract. So saw a tweet from him to Jason from overthecap.com to ask about Wilkins' contract and a restructure that was recently reported. And Jason said that Wilkins restructured it about a week ago to prorate his roster bonus. So what does any of that mean is what you're asking right now. Well, I'm glad you did. It created about $15 million in cap space, bringing the Raiders to about $51 million in cap space, and their effective cap space is about $44 million. So it increased their cap. And I'm sure a little bit of that has to do with the Geno extension, which is still in the works. It could be something else. It could be a whole lot of nothing. It could be the Raiders just decided that they wanted to lower his cap for 2025. I'm not too sure. People are like, is there going to be a big sign and trade or a trade and sign or whatever the case may be, like an extension coming? I don't know, because the thing about it is when they signed Max to his extension, they could have lowered his cap hit for this year and next year, but instead they didn't. They actually did it in the reverse, where Max Crosby's cap hit is bigger this year and next year than it would have been. So they could have lowered it if they were just trying to create more cap space to go and do some big spending. So I'm not too sure what they have up their sleeve. They're clearly a lot smarter than me, but I want to shout out to Andy Turner because, again, it was something that he saw, something that he alerted to me by way of Twitter at your boy Q254, and I appreciate that. So shout out to Andy. He was Johnny on the spot. He noticed it, and we'll see what happens. It could mean something. It could mean a whole lot of nothing, but big ups to Andy for seeing it, and now we'll kind of sit back and watch to see what evolves, if anything, from that. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast news and notes of the day. Coming up in segment number 2, the one concern that I still have, the new league year, this new staff that's in place, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, a lot of really good feelings going on right now, I do believe, but I still have one concern. And it doesn't mean it's something that's going to be lingering into the season or even deeper into the offseason, but it's still a concern as of right now. We'll talk about that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors here on the show, and the first one is Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and it makes it affordable. You can find the right talent, freelance expert, easy hiring, fast process, a cost-effective growth. They've got everything that you would need. And affordable, and affordable some more. That is the key, right, to the top tier freelancers. Visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. I also want to tell you about our great friends at Gametime. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Gametime Picks makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever the case may be. Whatever you want to go see, yeah, they got you covered. The Gametime app is amazing. It's got the deals. It's got some huge matchups coming up that you are going to want to be a part of. Plus, the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Time is it? Game time. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. A lot of positivity, a lot of good momentum. I think the right people are in place to lead this team forward. The silver and black under John Spytek, Pete Carroll, obviously Tom Brady and more, just based off some of the decisions that we've seen so far. Again, we talk about serious, unserious, and for entertainment purposes only. Feels like the Raiders are graduating from the unserious to serious. Now, there's one concern that I still have, and it's not like it can't be addressed. It's not like it won't be rectified or corrected, right? It has that chance. It's just as I'm watching everything develop in this new league year so far under this new staff. And a lot of this comes from all the different mock drafts. And we talked about mock drafts, what Mel Kiper Jr., Daniel Jeremiah, and others had to say about the Raiders in yesterday's show. But I'm still concerned with the offensive line, right? Mel Kiper, Ashton Jeanty, Daniel Jeremiah, Ashton Jeanty, Field Yates, Ashton Jeanty. So many different of these mock drafters, and I'm not saying they're right, but so many of them are saying Ashton Jeanty, the running back, to the Raiders at 6. That's fantastic if your offensive line is up to snuff. That's my big concern. Last year, the Raiders had Colton Miller, JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson. They had Andre James, Dylan Parham, DJ Glaze, right? Then they had Colton Miller, Jordan Meredith, JPJ, Dylan Parham, DJ Glaze, right? They had multiple combinations of the offensive line, and it just wasn't that great, right? Overall, they ranked 23rd best in the National Football League. That's 23rd out of 32, right? They struggled against the blitz. They were kind of solid when they weren't going up against the blitz and they only had, the front four coming at them. But, okay, that makes sense, right? So they were better there, but against the blitz, they weren't very good. And we know that the Raiders had no run game last year. Now, all that I'm not going to put on the offensive line. Some of that I'll put on the running backs. Zamir White, he was not, what anyone expected him to be, in the chance for him to actually be, the star running back, the lead dog in the backfield after Josh Jacobs went to Green Bay. He wasn't that guy. Alexander Madison did the best that he can. He was okay, right? I mean, there was Carter Abdul-Carter's the edge rusher out of Penn State, but Amir Abdullah, he did the best he can as a 10-year vet, but it just wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't what the Raiders needed. We know that they needed a dominant run game. We knew that that's what Antonio Pierce wanted. Strong defense, great run game, and that run game was just non-existent. And, on top of that, the quarterbacks really didn't have a whole lot of time to throw the ball. And it didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter if it was Gardner Minshew. Didn't matter if it was Aiden O'Connell. Didn't matter if it was, who was the young man that they picked up from Arizona. I keep forgetting. Desmond Ridder. Wasn't him. He was very forgettable. That's why I forget his name. I mean, it didn't matter who it was. None of them were good. So now I look at, all right, well, what have the Raiders done to make it better? Well, you still got Colton Miller. You brought back Jordan Meredith. Andre James is now in San Diego, LA with the Chargers. So he's probably going to be the center there. That's fine. JPJ slides over to the center position. We think that's his better position anyway. Dylan Parham, he's going to have something to say at the guard position. You got DJ Glaze. He's going to have something to say about the right tackle position. And they signed Alex Kappa. Alex Kappa is a guy that, did not have a very good year last year with the Cincinnati Bengals. They provided depth with him. Now, again, I'm not saying, oh, man, the offensive line is going to be terrible. It's going to be Swiss cheese. I'm not saying that. But right now, it looks like that one area of the team that has not really been addressed. We see Pete Carroll and John Spytek have brought in multiple guys defensively, and they brought in Raheem Mostert as a running back, right? But the offense has not been addressed, and that's fine. But I would have liked to have seen the offensive line at least attacked, especially if you're going to go in the direction of, hey, we're going to get Ashton Genty. He's going to be our lead back. He's going to be that Marshawn Lynch type guy. Well, you know what you need? You need a running back that has an offensive line that's going to open up holes for him. So, yeah, Genty would be fantastic, but it doesn't mean that just because he's a great running back, the Raiders are going to have a great running game. The way they get a great running game is to have an offensive line. Now, if they had gone out and said, you know what, we're going to build a bully, similar to what the Chargers did last year, right? I mean, Jim Harbaugh comes in from Michigan. He takes the Chargers job, and what's the first thing he does? Attack the trenches. That's the first thing he did. First draft pick, Joe Alt, right? They already have Rashawn Slater. So now they have these bookends. Then they go out there this offseason and pick up Mekhi Becton. Of course, they got Andre James at the center position, so we'll see how that works out. But you know what they want to do. They want to run the ball down your throat. So they're trying to build a bully along that offensive line. And I always go back to Reggie McKenzie when he built that great offensive line. The Raiders had car insurance back in 2016 when they had Donald Penn, they had Kelechi Osemele, they had Rodney Hudson, they had Gabe Jackson, and they had Austin Howard. Like, that was one hell of an offensive line. It didn't matter if they told you to play every time. You weren't going to stop them because they were going to just run it down your throat. Like, there was that drive, and Donald Penn, who joins my radio show quite a bit, tells me about it all the time. That game against Denver at the Coliseum, I think it was Sunday Night Football. It was either Sunday night or Thursday night. I think it was Sunday night. And they literally ran the same play the whole way down the field. Latavius Murray got behind that big offensive line, and Denver couldn't stop him. They knew what was coming. Donald Penn said they were telling them, same play. Just as it's going left, now it's going right. Now it's going left, now it's going right. You can't stop it because that offensive line is so dominant. So if that is the plan, and, Ashton Genty is going to be the number 6 overall pick, which he very well might be, then at least do him a favor, do Geno Smith a favor, and make that offensive line as solid as you possibly can. That's what I'd like to see. And look, it's early. It's March 20th, right? It's not like it's almost the season. It's not like it's preseason or training camp or anything like that. So there's obviously plenty of time to address it. I'm sure they will in the draft as well. But the one thing I remember from Seattle, there's a lot of good things to remember about Seattle. But the one thing I consistently remember about Seattle, and Tom Cable was there for a long time with Pete Carroll, is that they didn't really build that offensive line the way that they should. right? I mean, how many times did we hear they just don't have the offensive linemen? They took different guys and tried to put them in different positions. They got a lot of assets and tried to add them to the offensive line, but they weren't the right assets. So, and there's other guys, right? I mean, I just rattled off the guys that were the main starters last season and a couple guys that I expect to be on that offensive line this year. There's other guys that they have. Jordan Meredith, he's a guy. You know, there's other dudes that they have that maybe they could lean on, that maybe they know, hey, this is going to be the answer to the riddle cue. You don't know about this yet. Okay, that's fine. But that is my one concern. I've seen, you know, holes filled on the defense. Cool. I'm good with that, right? Geno Smith, the move with that, cool, good with that. Just want to see, if you're going to be a run-heavy team like we know Pete Carroll wants to do, you've got to have that offensive line. I mean, I've talked about it here and talked about it there along the way as we start talking about the draft and what they could possibly do. Everything's not going to be solved in the draft. Right now, they have 9 draft picks currently, right? Everything is not going to be solved there. It's like you could talk about the wide receiver position. Well, you need to go get a wide receiver. I'll just get him in the draft. Well, you need a couple offensive linemen. I'll just get him in the draft. Well, you need a running back. I'll just get him in the draft. Like, everyone's not going to come from the draft. You've got to be able to. And look, they're opening up cap space. Maybe they got something cooking. Maybe, you know, by the time you're listening to this, maybe they've just traded for, you know, a big time offensive lineman or you know, who knows? Maybe that's the next domino to drop. I don't know. But I just, as I'm watching, and I'm being very, very patient, and I feel very optimistic about the direction that the team is going. Like, don't let me make it sound like I'm not. I just have a little bit of concern because I don't see the attention to detail when it comes to the offensive line. I mean, hell, again, we've only seen one offensive free agent in Raheem Mostert, you know, come to the Raiders, and then obviously they traded for Geno Smith, and that was a big deal. And at some point they'll extend his contract, and we'll find out about that. But there hasn't been a whole lot on that side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, unless they plan on doing all the, you know, filling of holes with free agents on defense and then attacking the draft with nothing but offense. I mean, we've seen that kind of approach before. I believe that when Dave Ziegler was the GM, the Raiders made a lot of additions to the offense through free agency and then tried to build the defense through the draft. I think that's how they tried to do that. I've seen Matt Rule do that when he was the Carolina Panthers head coach. Remember Matt Rule? His first year in Carolina, every single one of their draft picks was on defense. So I'm not saying they can't do that. I just would like to see a little bit, at least somebody or two that's really solid and established along that offensive line so you could say, yep, they're trying to build a bully on that. And so, yeah, getting Ashton Jeanty would be fantastic. Takes a lot of pressure off of Geno Smith, right? Obviously, you know, Brock Bowers is a fantastic weapon. Jacoby Myers, the same thing. And if you have a run game that's dominant and sucks those guys in, you know, the defenders in, then all of a sudden you can beat them over the top. And now your offense has become that much more dynamic. And, oh, by the way, Chip Kelly, who's the Raiders offensive coordinator, if you know anything about Chip Kelly's offense, and I'm not talking about Oregon basketball on grass offense, I'm talking about what he did at Ohio State. He doesn't need a running quarterback. And he has one, and Geno Smith, he's capable of moving, right? He's not Lamar or anything, or Jalen Hurts. He's not that guy, but he's able to obviously move. He's able to run some RPO if he wants to. He doesn't need a running quarterback. He needs a running game. So the running game is non-negotiable. To have a really solid running game, you have to have what? A really solid offensive line. So that's what I'm paying attention to the most. Like the Geno stuff, that's going to happen, right? I'm sure a wide receiver at some point, that's going to happen, right? Another wide receiver to add to the mix. How do you make this offensive line? How do you take it from where it was, where basically overall in 2024 they ranked 23rd? How do you get into the teens? How do you get to the 15, the 14? How do you get into that range on the offensive line? If you can do that, then you're cooking with grease as far as I'm concerned. Then you're giving yourself an opportunity. You're giving Geno an opportunity. You're giving Brock an opportunity. You're giving Jacoby Myers an opportunity. And you're giving whoever you get at the running back position, whether it's Ashton Jeanty, Amarion Hampton, if it's Junkins from Ohio State, if it's Travion Henderson from, you know, it doesn't matter. You're giving your running game a chance if you build that bully up front in the offensive line. What does everybody say when they call in? Build through the trenches, build through the trenches. Let me see those offensive trenches built up. That's my only concern because I haven't seen that attention to detail at that offensive line as of yet. What's on your mind? Matter of fact, let us know if you have a concern. Let me know. 707-654-4693. You've seen this staff now since Pete Carroll and John Spytek have been in place. Do you have a concern? Is the offensive line or lack of attention to the offensive line one of your concerns? Am I tripping? I could be, right? Maybe I'm looking too far into it. Maybe I just need to do like Aaron Rodgers said back in the day. Relax. RELAX. It's going to be okay. Maybe that's the case. Let me know. Let me get your thoughts. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you. Anything that's on your mind. We'll do that next in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Start off with a quick call from Gonzo Raider. He's calling to talk about a rumor that he's been hearing about. Here he is, Gonzo Raider.
Hey, Q, Gonzo Raider here from the 505. Quick question. Weird rumors around there that 49ers might be looking at trading Christian McCaffrey. Now, a non-injured Christian McCaffrey is really solid. What do you think about him if he would come to the Raiders? Save that first pick, maybe not on Gentry, maybe go in a whole different direction. Just a thought. Let's go, Raiders.
Gonzo, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, thanks. No thanks for me. Thanks, but no thanks. No thanks for me when it comes to Christian McCaffrey. I'm out on that. He was injured just about all his last season for the 49ers. He has a huge salary. Don't forget about that. They just extended him, gave him the highest paid salary for a running back in the league. What was his big bugaboo when he was in Carolina? He was always injured. What happened when he got to San Francisco? All of a sudden, he was like the healthiest man in America, and then he got injured last year. So he was the healthiest man in America until he wasn't. I don't think that that's the case. Plus, you all of a sudden have to trade for him too, so you have to give up draft capital. So often injured, huge salary, and you have to give up draft capital for him. That's 3 strikes, you're out. Not you, but just that conversation. So yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. If that's the case, and you want a dynamic guy, then just do like Mel's saying, do like Daniel Jeremiah's saying, do like all these draft, guys are saying, and just go get Ashton Genty. You've got a guy that, is obviously younger. He's healthier. He's cheaper. Like that, all that makes all the sense in the world, right? I just spent all this time talking about the offensive line in segment number 2. I rather you go into it with Ashton Genty and no upgrades to the offensive line than Christian McCaffrey with everything that I just said. No, I'm good. Even if that is a true rumor that he could be on the trade block, and I wouldn't doubt that, only because I think the 49ers are taking a little bit of a step back and going to reset their books. I wouldn't want to be the team on the other end of that phone call saying, yeah, let's trade for Christian McCaffrey. It was great for the 49ers when they made the move for the Panthers, trading from the Panthers to San Francisco. But no, I think that he just needs to stay right there in Santa Clara, running in the Great America parking lot, if you know what I'm saying. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider Clay. So what's good, Q? It's Raider Clay. Considering it's mock draft season, I just wanted to address all the mocks that are currently airing from all the big-time guys. The main point I wanted to address is the potential for Cleveland to select one of the top 2 quarterbacks, Ward or Sanders, at pick number 2. I personally think the Browns are more likely to take a quarterback at 2 than what is currently being talked about. If that happens, that shakes up the rest of the top 5. In my opinion, given that Cam Ward will most likely go number 1 and the Giants will be left out without one of the top guys, let me know what you think about the possibility. And also, if in the very, very slim chance that Dual Carter and Travis Hunter are available at 6, who do you personally like to see the Raiders take? Thanks for all your hard work, Q. Raider Clay out. So in your scenario, and thanks for the text, I do appreciate you. In your scenario, the Titans take Cam Ward at number 1. The Browns take Shedeur Sanders at number 2. I'll stop there. I don't like Shedeur in Cleveland because I don't think the elements fit his style very well. And what I mean by the elements is that weather coming in off of Lake Erie. Like I just don't think that makes sense. Like that's a real thing. The elements are a real thing. If you saw, even when Deshaun Watson was healthy, he struggles to throw against those elements. It's like being in Buffalo. Remember when they drafted Josh Allen? They're like, well, every quarterback can't go to Buffalo and throw those elements. You have to have a guy with a super strong arm. Shedeur's not that guy. Cam Ward is much more of the guy with the strong arm. So I would be shocked if they take Shedeur, but they just need a quarterback, so maybe they would. So just say that they do in this scenario, they take him. So then all of a sudden, the Giants are sitting there at 3, and they would probably go Travis Hunter. I would think they would go Travis Hunter there. You have him with Malik Neighbors. You're getting 2 players in 1. And at 4, then you have the Patriots. They would probably go Abdul Carter. Mike Vrabel is a defensive guy. 5, you go Jacksonville. They'd probably go Mason Graham. And then at 6, the Raiders have, well, what do you do? Now, if Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter is there, I would go with Travis Hunter because, again, you're getting two players in one, a dynamic wide receiver and a guy that can be a dynamic cornerback, a shutdown cornerback, in my opinion. So I would do that, but I don't see Hunter getting past 4. I don't see Carter getting past 4. So it would be nice, but I could see the Raiders still ended up with Ashton Genty when it's all said and done, even if the first two quarterbacks go 1-2, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. But, I mean, it's a good thing to think about, and you have to be prepared for everything because you never know at the draft. Things happen, like the Falcons take Michael Penix at number 8 when nobody saw that coming. So those kind of things, they do happen. But thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Georgia Raider. He's calling to talk about the draft and give his thoughts on what he believes the Raiders need to do. Here he is, Georgia Raider.
Hi, Q. This is Georgia Raider here. Appreciate everything you guys do. Wanted to call in and talk about the upcoming draft and my thoughts. You know, I think it's important that we find a way to trade back in this draft. There's just got too many needs across the board. We don't want to draft a backup with pick number 6. We drafted Tyree Wilson, was a backup. You know, we had Kuntz, we had Max Crosby. There's no reason for a team that's not as talented enough as we are to be drafting backups in the 6th with the 6th pick. For example, if we drafted Shedeur at 6 or Mason Graham at 6, they're not the biggest holes that we got. The biggest holes that we got aren't quarterback or D tackle. We got Christian Wilkins. We got Adam Butler. Like, those are starters. We don't need to draft a guy at 6 at areas that we have starters like Geno Smith. All right? And to trade back, I understand we have to have a trade partner, and that's fine. But be able to find a way to trade back so that we can get an additional second rounder or maybe even an additional first rounder for next year so that we can possibly quarterback for the future. You know, if we have 2 first rounders next year, you could combine them to get up to 1 or 2 next year for an elite guy that might be available. Or not, if we just find 2 more second rounders, then we could move back to the mid-teens, still find an elite running back like a Marion Hampton running back from North Carolina, or an elite receiver like the kid from Arizona, and then add another guy in the second round and still find maybe our quarterback. That's maybe a flyer on Milrow for running a 4.37, something like that. But we've got too many holes to fill to try to find, a stud at the pick 6. If it's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, no doubt. They're not going to be there, though. I'm afraid that we're going to find a pick 6. Genty's great, but we got to find way more needs and more solutions to those needs. But appreciate you guys. Thanks. Bye.
Georgia Raider, thanks for the call. Appreciate you, my man. As far as trading back, you can do that if you want, right? I mean, you can. And if you find a trade partner and that's what you're hell-bent on doing, got to trade back, fine. I say this. Right now, the Raiders have 9 draft picks. You really don't need 9 draft picks. But if you're trying to collect some from next year and you're trying to, play the long game, okay, you got me all sold on that. Okay, I can do that. But what I can't do, or what I don't think is a good idea to do, I should say, that's a better way of saying it, passing on Shedeur or even Mason Graham at 6 because you already have one of those positions, that's crazy to me, right? Yeah, Geno Smith you have as a quarterback. But how long do you have Geno Smith as your quarterback? You've already gone through the quarterback carousel ever since they sat down Derek Carr. Like, that was just a couple years ago. We're acting like it was, 9 years ago that it happened that they sat down Derek Carr. It was just a couple seasons ago. And you've already gone through Jarrett Stidham. You've gone through Jimmy Garoppolo. You've gone through Brian Hoyer. You've gone through Aiden O'Connell. You've gone through Gardner Minshew. You've gone through Desmond Ridder. Like 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the last, 2.5 seasons? Like, that's wild to think that, right? I mean, that's a lot of quarterbacks. That carousel just keeps going around and around. Now you're on Geno Smith, right? And so you just, at some point, you've got to get a guy that's going to be your long-term dude. So, yeah, you can have Geno Smith, and you can still pick Shedeur if he's there at 6. Now, I don't think he's going to be there at 6 anyway, so it probably won't matter. And with Graham, the Eagles just showed everyone. They just showed the blueprint to how you can beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They beat the brakes off the Chiefs. Why? Because they had a bunch of bloodthirsty Pirates along that defensive line getting after Patrick Mahomes, making his life miserable. The last time the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, not this time, but the time before that, why did they lose to Tampa Bay? because they had a bunch of bloodthirsty pirates that were getting at Patrick Mahomes, making his life miserable. Like, you see the common theme here. When the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Christmas in 2023, how did they do it? Because those bloodthirsty pirates were along that defensive line, making Patrick Mahomes' life miserable. So, yeah, you have Christian Wilkins at the defensive tackle position. You have Adam Butler. You can still add Mason Graham, and you can make your strength stronger. You make everyone behind them better. The linebackers are better. The corners are better. And, oh, by the way, your head coach, Pete Carroll, when he won the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, how did he do that? Because those bloodthirsty pirates along the defensive line made life miserable for Peyton Manning. Right? I mean, that's just what they did. And, yeah, they had the Legion of Boom on the back end. They had Sherm. They had Earl Thomas. They had Cam Chancellor. But their life was made easier because those dudes along the defensive line. So I say that all to say, just because you have something that's nice don't mean you can't have two of them, right? I'd like to have two nice cars, right? Having one nice car is great. Give me two. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And in the NFL, on top of that, you need to have as many as possible because you know that you need a rotation. You know you need healthy bodies. You know how, look what the Raiders did last year. You want to talk about not needing two? Look at all the injuries they had last year. You think they couldn't have used another guy that plays the same role as Christian Wilkins? They did in Adam Butler. He did a good job, but could you imagine if, oh, hey, Wilkins goes down. Oh, now you got Butler and you got Mason Graham. Okay, cool. Right? Now you, again, back to the bloodthirsty Pirates. So I understand what you're saying about trade back. You could sell me on that, but you can't sell me on, well, you can't draft a guy because you already have that position filled. Like, no position's ever filled in the NFL. And, oh, by the way, Pete Carroll wants to do what? What does he want to do? What's the C word that I said everyone's going to hate? Compete. Competition, and more competition. You know how you get competition? By you doing what I can do and me doing what you can do and both of us trying to battle it out to do it the better. Right? I mean, that's the true definition of competition, and that's what Pete Carroll's all about. So, yeah, I mean, I don't, like I said, just because they have, an edge rusher doesn't mean they can't get another one. Just because they have a defensive tackle doesn't mean they can't get another one. Just because they have a quarterback doesn't mean that they can't get another one, right? It's just that kind of philosophy will get you in trouble every day of the week and twice on Sunday. You don't want to do that. But thanks for the call. Fantastic stuff. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Stabler's Ghost. Sup, Q? It's your boy Stabler's Ghost in the 518. I think people fail to realize that we have guys on the roster that could probably play great on the offensive line in Wagner, Munford, and Parham. Or is it Putnam? Maybe he's talking about Parham. I trust this staff and especially the coaches to have a better offensive line than people realize. Makes Genty at 6 even more probable. Big maulers like Wagner and Thayer could be stellar guards. Anyway, love what you do for the nation, the only nation. Raiders. That's Stabler's Ghost. And yeah, I didn't even mention Thayer Munford. And the reason is because every time he gets an opportunity, remember last year he was hell-bent on being the right tackle. I'm going to be the guy. As soon as he got his opportunity, he got injured. So you're right. He's there. He could kick inside the guard. He's a guy that's very flexible, to the position that he plays. Glazes as well, right? Glazes told us before, I'll play any place they put me. It's all good. So, maybe they do have a plan already. Maybe Wagner, Munford, maybe those guys can provide enough depth and make that offensive line better. But we don't know it. So I'm kind of concerned. Well, I am concerned about the offensive line right now. Now, if they go and those guys battle it out in camp and they also have some quality depth behind them, okay, maybe you're onto something. I just think that needs to be addressed a little bit more before you feel solid and feel real comfortable about this is going to be the game plan in 2025, going to run the ball down everyone's throats. So, but I'm glad you brought up a couple of those names. I hadn't thought about it and obviously spent a lot of time talking about the offensive line in segment number 2. But Thayer Munford is a guy that I guess it's easy to forget. And look, I've always talked about him as he could be such a steal. Remember the Raiders got him in round 7 out of Ohio State. So if you could turn that 7th round pick into somebody, and even Wagner, that guy was an undrafted free agent. He also can't stay healthy though, right? That's the reason why we haven't seen Dalton Wagner. Big monster dude, just can't stay healthy. There's a reason why he ends up on IR every year. So maybe there's something to that as well. You don't want to really risk the depth on guys that are often injured, but it's something to think about for sure. So you did provide a little bit of food for thought. Let's say it like that. So Stabler's Ghost, thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. Still got a call from Raider Tyrone from Clarksville, Tennessee. We'll get that tomorrow. And a text from JR Raider from the 530. I do want to say real quick, because JR Raider in his text said, shout out to my son, Jonathan. We always listen to you on our way to drop him off at school. So shout out to Jonathan. I'll get your text tomorrow, but shout out to Jonathan today. Shout out to your pops, JR Raider. from the 530 for listening every day and listening on the way to school. Definitely appreciate you. And now you have some knowledge when you're at the school and you're talking to your friends. You can be like, no, that offensive line's not where it needs to be. Well, how do you know that? Well, Q said so. Who's Q? Oh, that's the homeboy. It's Uncle Q. You don't know Uncle Q? No, I'm kidding. Anyway, don't do that. Don't get yourself in trouble at school. But no, have a good day at school. Thanks so much for listening. Definitely appreciate that. Got a lot of really good sound from Mel Kiper Jr. Had a draft conference call on Wednesday, 1 hour long, 1 hour strong. Fantastic stuff. So we'll close out the week tomorrow hearing from Mel. He'll also be on my radio show today, a little later on today at 12:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Pacific time on Joe and Q on ESPN Radio. So kind of double dip with Mel, get some thoughts from him. Raiders related when it comes to quarterback, offensive line, running back, all that good stuff. We'll get that from Mel. You'll get that on the show tomorrow. You also get news and notes. Maybe we'll be talking about a Geno Smith extension. And, of course, we'll get your calls and texts as well, 707-654-4693. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.